Generally, we're against cheating, but if anyone should be cheating, it should be us, because we're responsible. See? There are some occasions when we don't mind cheating though, and that's when video games themselves do it to make things more fun for us, sneakily bending their own rules to give us a better time. Watch on for 7 more times games cheated to feel more fun, as inspired by the top comments on our previous video, and watch out for spoilers ahead for the following games.
Delicious honor of being my crowning achievement. Your body is my ultimate gift to my lord, but together we shall transcend.
Outside of the religious definition, karma is generally understood to mean receiving good luck when you've done good stuff and bad luck when you've done bad stuff. With a key variation in Baldur's Gate 3, wherein karmic dice means the dice aren't purely random the way you expect dice to be, but instead they are tweaked to avoid frustrating streaks of low rolls that result in failing checks multiple times. Like that.
Witnesses sent by my lord to observe my craft. Witness my becoming.
These karmically tuned dice represent the game taking pity on you, the poor schmuck with a mile-wide losing streak, and granting you a nice, non-random, artificially high roll to keep you happy and/or alive. Like that. The karmic dice option is on by default, though some players turn it off for the sake of RNG purism, or on account of the way the karmic dice rules are applied not just to you, but to your enemies as well. Although fiddling with the randomness of dice behind the scenes might seem not fully in the spirit of the dice-powered Dungeons & Dragons, it is a neat case of a video game compensating for the so-called gambler's fallacy, a cognitive bias where after a string of bad luck outcomes, the gambler assumes they've just got to get luckier the next time. For once, in this game, the gambler's fallacy is real and true, and not just the reason I lost the deeds to this studio in a poker game.
You did what?
Quiet, I'll tell you later.
Now or never! Stop them! Better stop that vehicle! Double KO!
Marvel Rivals is what's known as a hero shooter because you spend most of your time in it shooting heroes.
Judge, jury, executioner!
In other words, it's an Overwatch, but in third person and with Marvel Comics characters for you to choose from, including Avengers-level superstars like Spider-Man, Captain America, and the Hulk, as well as less well-known characters such as Squirrel Girl and, Jeff the Land Shark. Anyway, Marvel Rivals' business model relies on you sticking around and, well, playing Marvel Rivals, something you might not do if you keep having a bad time and losing matches.
Well, you can't expect to win them all.
As such, if you lose 2 consecutive unranked matches in Marvel Rivals, you might find yourself doing significantly better in your third match. This is fun, you might think to yourself. I can't believe I was on the verge of rage quitting and never playing Marvel Rivals again.
Nothing personal.
Well, sorry friend, but you've just been psychologically manipulated, as if by Charles Xavier, or the Scarlet Witch, or to a lesser extent, Jeff the Land Shark, I assume. Has to be some reason why they keep adding him to things, right? That's because these third matches are in fact bot matches, in which you find yourself fighting alongside 2 bot teammates against 6 bot enemies. AI bots tend to be a lot more predictable and a lot less skilled than actual human players, with the result that you'll probably win, feel good about yourself, and decide that yes, maybe you will drop some real money on the battle pass that lets you play as Grey Hulk after all. While this is undoubtedly a psychological boost for players, the reveal that this has secretly been going on in the background hasn't been warmly welcomed by everyone, with some Marvel Rivals fans being mad that the game doesn't tell you it's doing it. In fact, the only way to know for sure if you've been in a bot game is to look at your game history after the match and try to view the other players' profiles. If you get the message, "This player has restricted access to their career profile," chances are they're a bot. Or, a much easier way to tell if you're me, if I actually manage to kill them, it's a bot. It's a very straightforward system.
Resistance forces are currently somewhat disorganized. If we are to defeat Advent and their alien masters, you must change this before it is too late.
If you're looking for a tricky strategy game series to get your teeth into, then XCOM should be top of your list.
I'm not. Avenger, all XCOM operatives are dead or MIA. I'm returning to base.
In my case, the X refers to the number of soldiers that I sent into battle that are now ex-soldiers. The XCOM games have been brilliant since the series began way back in 1994, and one of the key reasons is their turn-based combat segments. These are both strategically involving and, with their sinister alien enemies and ominous hidden movement messages, deeply creepy. I'm about to do a movement, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to hide it. The series was expertly rebooted by Firaxis in 2012, bringing with it shiny modern graphics but retaining the important elements of the gameplay, including the percentages the game displays to show how likely it is that one of your shots will hit.
I'm about to start keeping score.
The problem the reboot development team discovered was that because human beings are fleshy sacks full of emotions rather than rational calculating machines, we apparently don't do well with percentages. Like how there's a 0% chance of me ever becoming a Formula 1 driver, and yet I still fantasize about it during all the bits in these videos where I'm not talking. The problem was, players saw a high percentage, like say 90%, and assumed that it was basically certain that the shot would hit. In actual fact, roughly 1 in every 10 of those shots would miss, but the team found that players would get hugely frustrated when they missed a high percentage shot. Oh, yeah, sorry. So for the reboot sequel, XCOM 2, they decided to fiddle the numbers a bit so that the results were closer to our expectations of those percentages. Lead designer Jake Solomon explained to Gama Sutra, there's actually a number of things that tweak that number in the player's favour at the lower difficulty settings. That 85% isn't actually 85%. Behind the scenes, we wanted to match the player's psychological feeling about that number. Solomon went on to explain to Gama Sutra that the 85% you see on screen is actually closer to a 95% probability of a hit. So even though the percentages in XCOM 2 look like empirical statistical calculations, they're actually not, because to a human, a 95% feels like an 85%. I wonder if Jake feels the same way about the fact that XCOM 2 only got 88% on Metacritic rather than over 90. I'm guessing probably not.
To get there, we're passing through the machine shop over here. If you needed to backtrack or simply wanted to explore the ship further, you may encounter a completely different experience. Different enemies, the ambience and lighting may change. This is what we call the intensity director.
It turns out the most effective way to make a nerve-shredding, well-paced sci-fi horror game isn't to simply take 1 million space zombies and pour them into a space station at a steady rate of 1,000 space zombies per minute until the player is dead. I learned that the hard way in my debut game, Come Get Killed by 1 Million Space Zombies. If only I had played 2023's Dead Space remake beforehand, I would have noticed that over multiple playthroughs of Dead Space, the ebb and flow of violence is dynamically adjusted each time. Variations in enemy spawning, for instance, create variable lulls between scrappy, high-intensity situations where you can better quietly reckon with the chilling cosmic horror that's going on behind all the gore. This is thanks to the game's so-called intensity director, a system that manages and coordinates the spawning of enemies, along with hundreds of other unique events and environmental elements, such as flickering lights, fog, or a corpse right in your way that may or may not be about to leap up and carve your face off. Thanks, I guess. The Intensity Director is like a personal horror concierge, curating a bespoke Dead Space experience to maintain your optimum level of stress, which it appears to have decided is very high. Taking notes for my next game. Come get killed by 2 million space zombies.
Perception is everything. Say, for example, I told you that this glass was half full. You'd be like, great, plenty of water. If I told you it was half empty, however, you'd be like, oh no, the water's nearly gone. In reality, however, both are wrong. It's vodka. Video game developers are nothing if not skilled psychologists, however, and know exactly how to make games feel tense and exciting, while not tipping their hand to the players about the manipulation going on in the background to make it work. Take, for example, health bars. Generally, if you're presented with a health bar in a game, you would assume it represents how much health your character has. It reduces at a uniform rate based on the incoming damage that you receive, and when it's empty, you die! Would that it were so simple, friends, because in many games your health bar is lying to you. But it's only to make you feel cooler, so I think we can let it slide. The thinking behind this is that being at low health is exciting. It makes the stakes higher, thinking that every incoming blow could be your last, and forces you to lock in and focus up so you can bring your A game. As such, certain games tweak their health bars so that what looks like a uniform meter is actually weighted much more towards the lower end of the scale. For example, it's an open secret that the Assassin's Creed and more recent Doom games are designed so that the last 10% of a player's health bar actually represents anywhere between 15 and 30% of their overall health. So all the while you're fighting for your life with 10% of your health left, expertly avoiding the killing blows raining all around you, you're actually pretty healthy all things considered, and able to take significantly more damage than you think you can. The game is just lying right to your face. But in a nice way, like when I tell Jane that I'll definitely watch the TV show that she recommended. We all know it's not true, but it makes everyone feel better if we just pretend.
Like Logan Paul or the Borderlands movie, our next entry is a good example of something that's meant to be fun, but in practice ends up enraging just about everybody who encounters it. That's right, it's what is commonly known as rubber banding in racing games, probably most famous in Nintendo's Mario Kart series. The idea of rubber banding is to allow players of any skill level to feel like they're having a tense, close race. As such, if you fall too far behind the pack, the opposition AI will slow down to allow you to catch up, while if you get too far ahead, the drivers will speed up so they can catch up to you. Kind of like you're all attached by a big rubber band, which will stretch but never let you get too far away from each other. Hence the name. The problem with rubber banding is that while people appreciate it when they fall behind, they super don't when they're ahead, where it feels like no matter what they do or how skillful their racing line is, there's always someone on their tail. And sometimes that person has a tail. Get out of here, Yoshi! It's particularly egregious in Mario Kart, where players further back in the pack have the advantage of getting better power-ups from item boxes. This means that if you're in first place, not only are you struggling to stay there due to everyone else being given an artificial speed boost and better handling, they're also wailing on you with red shells, you're getting hit with lightning and squidding, and worst of all, you're the only player being specifically targeted with the dreaded blue shell. Maybe that's why it's called rubber banding, because it feels like you're being repeatedly pinged in the face by rubber bands. Makes a lot more sense.
To maintain a constant testing cycle, I simulate daylight at all hours and add adrenal vapor to your oxygen supply. So you may be confused about the passage of time. The point is, yesterday was your birthday. I thought you'd want to know.
We mentioned Portal 2 in our last video, on account of the ending, wherein it doesn't matter which colour portal you fire onto the moon, the game will make sure it's the correct one so that its big climactic finale moment doesn't fall flat. But falling flat is something that Portal 2 is keen for you to not be doing throughout your game, not just the end, as we can see from another clever gameplay tweak from its designers known as scripted momentum. Real physics, as anyone who studied it will know, can be unfortunately boring and unspectacular, and certainly unforgiving when it comes to things like flinging people bodily across rooms, which is the reason the high school I went to no longer has a trampolining club. Jane's Law, they call it. Anyway, scripted momentum gets around this unfun, uncinematic quality of actual physics by boosting your velocity as you go through portals to make sure that you're moving at the right speed to ensure you make jumps that you're trying to make, regardless of whether or not they make total 100% physics sense. Because there is no sound in a Portal game more anticlimactic than this. And that's not all. Although it is subtle, Portal 2 also has a mechanic that pulls you towards portals slightly as you approach them, so that you go through a portal as intended rather than smacking into the wall next to it. Which, honestly, could happen to anyone, as I explained to my old trampolining coach, Mr. Quinlan. Anyway, nice one, Valve. How about Portal 3? Yeah?
That jumpsuit you're wearing looks stupid. That's not me talking. It's right here in your file. On other people it looks fine. But right here a scientist has noted that on you it looks stupid.
Hey, thanks so much for watching this video about the ways games cheated to feel more fun. Thanks a lot to the commenters on our last video on this topic for their great suggestions. And if you want something else to watch, then let me recommend...
Severance.
Okay, this video up here, I'll get right on Severance. Definitely watch it. Down here's a video
White
from
Lotus.
Outside Extra. Yeah, can't wait to watch the White Lotus. Gonna put that on as soon as I leave the studio. Watch one of these two first, and then I am right on White Lotus. Go Goggins.